For a space as big as commercial cards, there's still so many opportunities to make a difference for startups. This is Tearsheet's early stage podcast, and I'm Zack Miller, editor-in-chief of Tearsheet. Here's where we drill down on up-and-coming fintech firms tackling big problems in large markets. Joining me on the show is PayEm's co-founder and CEO, Jobani. PayEm provides a corporate card and management tools for companies to streamline their spending. PayEm's combination of plastic and software helps company leaders approve, track, and manage vendors with rules to manage budgets and projects. Jobani joins us on the podcast to share his vision for smart commercial cards, why he founded the company, and where he plans to lead his firm. Here we go.
So I'm Jobani. I'm the co-founder and CEO of PayEm. PayEm is a corporate spend management platform that we started about a year and a half ago.
So before we get into PayEm and tomorrow, I want to hear a little bit more about your background and kind of what led you to where you are today.
Sure. So in my previous position, I was a software developer in a company here in Israel that was developing an AI tool for diagnosis of rare diseases. And I came to realize the pain in the credit card world through two episodes that we had. One was that my team was responsible for spending a few $1,000s that we didn't need to pay. It was basically we paid for some cloud services that we didn't use, and nobody noticed it within the company. So after about 4 months that we burned a few $1,000s, finally the office manager in the company opened up the statements from the credit card company and realized that we are spending way more than what we need to. And that made me realize that the credit card world haven't been changed much in the past decades. And there was another issue that was really bothering me personally, was that I had to fill out, I was an R&D employee, and I had to fill out expense reports every month. And we used a platform that considered to be one of the state-of-the-art platform for expenses, and it was super painful and annoying for me. There was a lot of friction around it, emails from the accountant and my direct boss and the office manager, and it was back and forth for really, really simple things. And I was part of what we called at the company the wellness team, which was a group of employees that were just trying to make the life of the culture or the life of employees easier. And I was like, I'm going to find us a better solution. So I started to look for a better solution for expense and credit card use. And I didn't find anything. And I went to one of my friends that he's the CTO of one of the biggest credit card company in Israel. I've been working there for over 25 years. And I explained to him what's the problem. And he said, look, this problem is huge. And we see not just startups, but big corporations struggling with their credit card infrastructure. And when I said, why are you guys not building it? He said, look, we are a financial service. And at the end of the day, we're not interested in building technologies for the companies that we're serving. And I think there is a need to build a platform that is really focusing on the integration between corporation and credit card. So I saw that as a signal, and I was like, this is what I want to do. And I left that company and we started PayEm. Actually, one of my co-founder, Omer, was working with me at PayEm as well, and we started that journey.
Awesome. And had you had any exposure to financial services before that, professionally?
No, actually, no. It was something that was completely new to me, and I was just a consumer of financial services. So it was a journey of learning the industry, learning the players. Very early on, we were lucky to work with Visa and created a very strong relationship with them. So we were invited to work at Visa offices in the innovation in their innovation studio. And that was probably the best fintech school that I could dream of. And over there, we met with many people within Visa or Visa partners, and learned about the in and outs of the payment industry.
Do you think, Itamar, that your fresh eyes, how have your fresh eyes, I guess, impacted PayEm's involvement? Like, meaning, has it added or subtracted from, I guess, your experience in trying to build a financial services product?
I think, I think in a sense, the fact that that I didn't grow within the financial industry allowed me to see the need first, or the pain first, and then try to find a solution, rather than see the infrastructure and find a way to adjust it to the needs, if that makes sense. So I remember, I had many conversations with this CTO that I mentioned, and some of my ideas, he was like, "There's no way that we can build that. There's no way that we can allow a company, interfering with our approval processes or other specifications that was my dream." So it sort of forced me to adjust to take my vision and see how we can build it, rather than like trying to take something that is already existing and adjust it in that way. So it was there was a learning curve for sure, but at least I came with my set of demands or requirements, and then looking for partners that can actually support that vision.
We hear that a lot. Entrepreneurs that enter the space, from a different industry or different backgrounds, and a lot of times it enables them to go up and try to solve, big audacious problems that maybe somebody within the industry, thinks either solved, or they're not quite aware of sort of the pain points. That's interesting. So can you help us understand what the space looks like now? So before PayEm came along, like how would corporations handle this? You mentioned sort of a software package, and expense reimbursement. Like, can you name some of the names and just describe, I guess, what the solutions are that are out there?
Yeah, or maybe I want to say something about your other comment. I think
Sure.
the finance industry is going now through a revolution where we saw that in the cloud services, where 15 years ago, if you wanted to build a SaaS company, you really had to invest a lot in your infrastructure, and that created a really high barrier for companies to enter into that space. And then came AWS and other services, and made it very easy and simple for a group of talented software engineers to build something. And I think we see that now within the finance world, that you don't necessarily have to be a big bank in order to build innovation within the finance world. And sometimes when we are doing a demo, either to a client or a customer or a potential partner, a big financial institution, and they are shocked at the achievement that we got in a relatively very thin or very limited resources. So if I'm moving to your second question, I'm still sometimes it's astonishing to see very large corporations, their flows that they have around credit cards. So we're talking with companies that have hundreds of employees that are spread into 5 different territories in different continents, and they are right now have 3 credit cards within the organization, and they keep them in the safe of the controller, and he's the only one who's doing the transaction. And that's it's still I cannot understand how that works, right? I mean, they are getting in an email a request for an employee to buy a subscription or something like that. Many times the controller is coming down, going down to the employee's office and type in the credit card information in order to make that $20, $50 transaction, and then you see sometimes like 3 or 4 people within the organization that their whole purpose is to take that few hundreds of transactions of line that came in the statements, the credit card statements, and each line put that in the ERP system, understand what entity within the group was consuming that, who is the stakeholder that enjoying that service, if there is a PD or a PO, a purchase order number that related to that transaction, is there a vendor number that related to that transaction, what is the chart of accounts, what is the department, what is the budget. I mean, and it's all been done manually, and it's, you know, I still can't understand how this seems to me so inefficient.
That's wild. Yeah. Well, what about the technology solutions?
Well, some of them, I mean, there are a lot of players in that space, and I think at the end of the day, it's a matter of execution, and even things like integration with ERP. There's so many ways that you can do it, and I think this is just the beginning of a revolution within the digital credit cards or the challenger credit cards of who building the best product. And I think it's also a massive market that have a lot of different niches and a lot of different segment. And eventually each of those companies will find their own, their own cater and their own product. And it's a lot about like, what is the combination of product that you're building, right? So credit card could be one of them. And, you know, those companies that you see them expanding horizontally and building more of a financial institution or a bank. And there's companies that trying to focus or really build.
I would like you to name some of those companies. Niche. Can you talk about who you bump into or who you think you'd be competing against?
I mean, I think we see in the space. I mean, Brex was definitely an early player within that space, and I think Brex built a great product, and they're still expanding in a very fast way. I think Brex is one that expanding horizontally in a sense, right? They are really now with Brex Cash, and they're really building something that is, at the end of the day, trying to replace the financial institution from the get-go. I think we are less interested in that direction. I think it's also very it's also very related to the type of companies that you want to serve. I think if you take companies that are not necessarily startups, their relationship with the bank go way deeper than just cash management or checking account. So we're not trying necessarily to replace that relationship, rather build a layer between the credit card operation and the rest of the organization, whether it would be the HR, whether it would be the TMS, the travel management that they are using, or would it be their procurement solution if there is any procurement solution, and of course the heart is the ERPs and the accounting and bookkeeping. So this is our vision. This is where we want to be.
Got it. So now would be a good time to talk maybe about the features that you have on the PayEm cards and maybe how some of your clients are using it.
Sure. So we really see ourselves, not just as a credit card, but rather as a management system that credit card is built in it. So with our system, you can bring all your vendors or your existing vendors, or you can set them up on the go, and then set up limits on how much they can spend on. One of the things that I still see, we know that in the consumer space where you sign an AT&T or, some sort of communication plan, and then you realize that it was almost double, and that was a year ago, and you missed that because you joined and somewhere you signed, and that price is going to be for 6 months or whatever. Or you see it also in SaaS where you want to buy 10 images of Shutterstock, and then you realize, or in the worst case, you don't realize that at the end of the month, they billed you for a monthly subscription for a year in advance, right? So, and I think that pain, when you talk to controllers, you see that this pain is actually huge, because especially if you're talking about large organizations or public companies, they have a PO, they have some sort of a budget that was approved for a specific purpose. And if they give the credit card to a vendor, they basically gave an open check to that vendor, and many times they being charged more than that, what they agree or feel comfortable with. So with PayEm, you can set up limits, or you can set up an alerts if you're getting overcharge, and you can create the full automation of how you want that vendor to behave, what department they belong to, and so on. And you can even send limited cards to your employees that they can do the transactions themselves with those vendors. And of course, with the employees themselves, you can set up a whole rules of how they can spend money. So, there's different, you see it very strongly, when you talk to customers. There's some customers that their employees just get a P card, or they can do pretty much whatever they want. And there's other companies where a very limited amount of people are getting actual cards, and if they're getting a card, they want to have a very strict rules or strict policy about what they can spend the money on. So we cater to all of this, and an employee can send a request and get either physical cards or a virtual card or a mobile pay card for the specific need that they are having. I think a lot of what we do is that we try to be almost transparent, where you see services that what they want is that you will have as much interaction with the service as possible. We are trying to actually be transparent to that organization. So in a sense, we're trying to integrate with many tools that the organization is already used, where it's going to be Slack, or it's going to be the ERP or the TMS, and try and wrap around our solution to the existing culture and tools that the organization use, rather than build another infrastructure. And we really see ourselves as building the solution for the finance team within the organization. It's really who's our biggest customer within our customers is the controller and the bookkeeping, and we're trying to make their work as easy as possible and give them something that they don't have right now, which is control. In the ACH world, or the way that they're doing big transaction now, they have full control over what they do. Everything is documented and accounted for. But within the credit card, it's sort of like a black box within the finance team that everybody's afraid of, and everybody's trying to avoid it because there's no way to really control and integrate it. And this is what we're trying to do. We're trying to build, to use virtual cards as a Lego or as a unit that we built the existing organization workflow with those cards.
Got it. And so Itamar, can we talk about, so I think we have a good understanding of what you do and for whom you do it. Can we talk about, I guess, your plans for go-to-market, your plans for new products? I guess looking ahead, like what's on your plate?
Yeah, so now we're still in a very early stage startup. We're serving a bunch of customers that are very loyal, and we build strong relationship with them. But we see most of them as a design partner, and we are still beefing up our integration and our product. But in the short term, we're looking to raise money and to expand both globally and in terms of our product. So we just hired sales, and we feel that we can now scale up our sales, and we hired some more engineers, because we have a very clear vision of where we want to be in half a year in terms of the product. We feel that there's a lot to build, and we're excited about building it.
And is the channel for growth, is it mainly enterprise sales? I mean, it's calling in on big accounts. Like how do you think about managing marketing and acquisition channels?
Yeah, I think we're less interested in the small accounts, or the mom and pop, or the small startup or boutique businesses, and more interested in a larger organizations. And that is not a that's definitely not a no touch, or we feel that marketing is less relevant necessarily for this sort of sales. So it's all done through a relationship that we're building, whether it will be, different channels. Sometimes those channels could be our partners, or companies that we integrate with. Sometimes it could be our investors, or the partners that we actually are working with, and with developing the product. So it's all, I would say, a lot of personal connection, and this is also what we are different, I feel, is that we're not coming to an organization and trying to just throw our product and say, here, this is it, try and use it. But we're really trying to understand the needs, and which with each organization that we're working with, we learn a lot, and we build, and our product become better. And then we come to the new organization, we already have a set of tools that are in place that works, but we also open to hear how their flow is working, and learn from that.
How do you feel about sort of the big platforms in the space, the Stripe issuing and the Marketas out there? How do you see yourself fitting in alongside them?
I think, when we look at the commercial credit card, I think this is a huge ocean, and building infrastructure is something that is definitely important. And whether it's going to be Stripe, or it's going to be Marketa, I think they are serving the industry in a way that they allowing companies like us to build a more specific solution. And I really believe that we're going to see in the next 10 or 15 years, the whole industry is changing. And, I look at credit card that now most of us are using still within the corporate environment. I look at them as like a phone that was, that even like a line phone. And now we are talking, and now we're talking about, smartphone where you can do this and do that. And, we're just in the beginning of that revolution. And so, things that are right, super basic, like mobile pay, Apple Pay, and Google Pay, are still in the early traction. And the way their organization are using credit cards is going through evolution. Because if you were talking, and this is bigger than just payments, this is about the ecosystem that now corporations are working with, right? 20 years ago, you really had a set limited of vendors that you were working with, and you could pay them with ACH. But now, every company have sometimes hundreds of small SaaS services that they're using. And definitely with the culture that that many organizations have, that each team can choose their own tools. So you see a huge amount of money going through credit cards. So really, there is a lot of structure or infrastructure that needs to be put in place in order to serve this payment landscape.
Hey, Tamara from PayEm, thank you for joining us on the Tearsheet podcast today.
Thank you. It's good to be here. Thank you very much.